and then I'm going to pass it off to Kat and sign off. We'll kind of get the ball rolling in discussion.
Okay, we're live. All
right.
We can start whenever.
Okay, well, thanks to everybody who's signing on and watching us right now. This is the first Hangout for the Associated Press Photo Managers, or APPM. For those of you who are new to APPM, it's an organization that consists of leaders overseeing photography at their publications or educational institutions around the world. You can find us at appphotomanager.com, as well as on Facebook and Twitter, which is at APPhotomanagers. So we really thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon. We hope to make these Hangouts a recurring event every few months, just trying to get conversations going about relevant topics that we all kind of care about. This will be also available if you're watching live now. That's great. It'll also be available in the archive at appphotomanagers.com/hangouts. So if you can't finish today or you want to share it with people later on, please catch up with us there. I'm going to pass it over to Pat, who will let you guys watching know how you can participate. Pat.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm getting a delay.
Okay.
Where's audio coming from? So the for everybody watching, the way you can ask us questions is through that Q&A app. It's on the right side of your left side of your screen. It says Q&A. You can type us questions, and I'll sort of moderate how that's going, and pose those questions to the audience. But yeah, I'm getting a bad audio delay.
Okay. Pat can help you out a little bit. So Pat just mentioned the Q&A app, which is on the left-hand side of your screen in the Google Hangout. If you roll over it and turn it on, you'll be able to type questions, and we'll let you know as we answer them. Pat will be flagging that. You can also participate by tweeting questions at AP Photo Managers, and so we should be able to keep track of those. Panelists, just a reminder, if you turn on your chat icon, we can communicate with you. It's up at the top of your left-hand screen. We can communicate with you if we're having an issue hearing you or whatnot without having to flag everybody. All right, so just to introduce who's on our panel today, we're going to be talking about the different approaches newspapers are taking with video through their photo departments. We're excited to have this panel come and join us. Thanks for taking your time in the middle of the day. We have Erin Brethauer, who's the videographer and multimedia editor from Asheville Citizen-Times. There's Erin.
Hey there.
We have Danny Gawlowski, who's a photo and video editor at the Seattle Times.
Good morning, West Coast morning.
Yeah. We have, everybody says Kathy K, I guess, but Kathy Kieliszewski. Yeah, who's the director of photo and video from the Detroit Free Press.
You know, and is my audio working?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Because I was fumbling there for a minute. But hello.
And then we also have Eric Lutzens, who will be joining us shortly. He's finishing up a live broadcast at the moment, and he's a multimedia producer for the Denver Post. Moderating today, we have Kat Duncan from the Victoria Advocate, and she'll kind of be helping keep the conversation rolling with everybody, and also does video as well. And then we have Pat Traylor from the Denver Post, who's running the show in terms of keeping the Hangout up and operating. So with that, remember you can participate through the Q&A tool. You can also participate and ask questions via Twitter, and I'm going to sign off and let you guys get the conversation going. Okay.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with each of you talking about how you handle video in your newsroom and telling us a little bit about what you do with daily video. Danny, do you want to start?
Sure, I will. We have a photo staff. We have 13 photographers and a videographer. We have myself, who does some video editing. We have a dedicated video editor, Genevieve Alvarez, and we're currently hiring a second video editor. We our entire newsroom produces video. Typically, especially like our sports department, will shoot mostly like iPhone video at press conferences and when they have interviews. And then, so most of our daily production is sort of more lower production quality, straight up onto the website from there. Most of our sports columnists and some of our breaking news reporters can just upload directly from their phone into our publishing system. And that's typically what we do for a lot of our daily breaking news video. And then we try to use our production resources, since we're so limited, in stories that have a bit more of a shelf life and would benefit from more production value. So typically our photographers go out and record the video, and then our editors will put that together into typically subject-driven narratives that are published online.
That's great. Erin?
We have a pretty similar take on video too. I'm one of 4 photographers in the visual department at the Citizen-Times, and everybody in the newsroom has an iPhone, so reporters have the ability to shoot video. I'd say a lot of the times our kind of cops reporters are doing a lot of clips and sending them from the fields, and those tend to get a lot of interest and traction online. And then our photographers are doing a lot of, like Danny mentioned, kind of more narrative, more in-depth video storytelling. So I've been at the newspaper for 7 years, and I've seen video kind of take different turns in our newsroom. When I first started, we had a really big push for super intense. Everyone needed to learn how to edit on Avid, and we kind of let it drop for a little bit. And then I'd say about a year and a half or 2 years ago, maybe just a year ago, everyone got iPhones, and that's been kind of our main video storytelling, our main way we're doing video with reporters in the newsroom.
Great. Kathy?
Erin and I are in the same newspaper group, Gannett, and so we do a lot of the similar things. I mean, all the reporters and photographers have iPhones, and so the expectation from the reporters is to do the quick hit daily stuff. The sports guys are doing press conferences. They're also doing commentary. Our breaking news folks are doing stuff. Sometimes they're doing a little bit more elaborate with just iPhone and iMovie. And then the photographers are also expected to shoot the raw stuff and the clips if it's deemed necessary from the assignment. But on any given kind of, not necessarily week or month, but we have a couple people working on longer term things. We have 12 photographers. One is dedicated solely to doing long-form narratives. Another one is mostly committed to doing long-form narratives, and then a bunch of other people, depending on the story, might pick one up if the story is worthy of that amount of time and that type of storytelling or medium.
That's great.
Cool. So Eric Lutzens just joined the call. Eric, we're just finishing doing some introductions, so you joined at the perfect moment. If you want to introduce yourself as well, you can hear me.
I can't see him.
Yeah.
He has a little black
Perhaps
box.
he's still getting getting set up.
Okay.
We can probably keep chatting until he comes on, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the next thing I was thinking about people might be interested in is what kind of video really works for your different newsrooms? What do you find that your readers really like to watch? What has been successful in each of your newspapers?
I guess I'll jump in. I mean, and maybe just talk about how we've sort of changed and our thinking over the past couple of years. I think maybe about 3 years ago, Genevieve and I were putting a real heavy emphasis on daily news reporting. We were trying to churn narratives on a daily basis, and we thought that it was really important to us to be able to produce on a very high quality work on a daily basis within the news cycle. But when we actually sat down and looked at how those were performing, those were actually underperformers. And so now we're focusing a lot more on some of our more enterprise news, things that maybe have been in the work for a couple of days. It seems that we can take a little bit more time, tell the story that we want to tell, be a little bit less reactive to the news. We find that for like daily news, breaking news reporting, there's a lot of other sources of that, and really there's a lot of competition in the market from news and TV news and such. And so we just find that like our enterprise, our stories that take a couple days to produce, they just seem to perform much better, and it seems to fit our production schedule a lot better.
Great.
Cool.
Oh, I see somebody who's not a black box anymore.
Hey, Eric, can you hear us?
Fancy, nice desk.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
You guys can hear me, right? Everything's good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Can you just do a quick count for us? How many bobbleheads are on your desk?
Let's see. I don't know. These crazy sports guys, they keep changing it on a daily basis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, we can give you the tight shot of the bobbleheads here.
Perfect.
I think there's 6 or 7. Nope, 8.
Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and what we do with daily video?
Sure. My name's Eric Lutzens. I'm a multimedia producer for the Denver Post. I guess my main focus right now is studio shows. I'm currently on the press box set. We do a live 2-hour show every morning, and beyond that, the set completely breaks down. We do all our political shows in here as well, and that's kind of what I'm responsible for right now.
All right, great. Well, right before you came in, we were kind of talking about what video is working in the different newsrooms, and Danny had kind of talked a little bit about what works at the Seattle Times. Do any of the rest of you want to jump in and kind of talk about what readers like to watch and what works for you guys?
Well, in Asheville, we're kind of finding that those really quick clips from iPhones, from scenes, crime scenes and stuff like that, that's sent in right through the phone, that does really, really well. And then also the pieces that I think we're finding too, when you label something raw clip, people tend to click on that. Like even if we just have a clip from something that goes with the story that's not very edited, that tends to do really well. And then kind of our more produced videos are doing that. But yeah, I kind of agree with Danny, kind of those middle like daily videos that just don't have too many more days to them. Like they don't have as much life with us either.
All right.
I had to take a picture of Eric's set. I love it. We're seeing the same thing. You know, if we we had it was like an 80-car pileup I think it was last winter, not this past one, but the one before that. And we had a clip up from the air showing the scene. That we did a little bit of voiceover for, just saying this is what's happening, this is how many dead, this is so real quick, and it went up very quickly. And then to turn around and polish it up and post another version of it later in the day, it didn't make sense. The thing that drove traffic was the initial clip that went up. The more polished piece nobody really watched. So the quick clips. And then again, the long form stuff. I mean, for us, one of our highest hit videos last year was in the top 5, I think, was a video about a shipwreck hunter, and it was a polished piece. It's going to be a long form documentary when it's all said and done. But there was news. He had found some pretty rare shipwreck in one of the lakes here, and we had been going out with him doing the long form, so we cut a quick short piece out of that, and it was one of our highest hit videos from the year. So it proves to us that people crave that type of narrative storytelling, but you obviously can't sustain that when your staff is been downsized so much, and you also still have the obligation of the newspaper every day.
Mm-hmm. All right, Eric, is there anything you want to add?
Our quick hit stuff, generates a decent amount. Our spot news is kind of our go-to for what we need to do. But we have been working on these long-term projects, which I don't know, they just kind of, I'm at a loss of words right now. I'm sorry. Come back to me, please.
So I guess you guys all mentioned long-term projects. What are long-term projects for your newsrooms? Like, do any of you have your newsrooms work as a group for a year on a big project, or your long-term projects a couple weeks? Kind of how does that work in each of your situations?
I think we consider it like a long-term project. We do have a really robust investigative team, and and we do have some opportunities to do longer projects in other parts of the newsroom as well. So when I think of like a long-term project, I usually think of like a year in production from beginning to end. Some things can go a little bit longer, but every year we sort of like try to identify where we're really going to put our resources. We identify a couple of projects that we're really going to go all out on, and then throughout the year we'll also have several projects that are a couple week sort of stints. We have a Sunday magazine, and so all of those are really sort of like multi-week projects, shot over the course of weeks, finished weeks in front of publish date, and so we do a fair amount of like several week projects.
Okay.
But that still might only be like a couple of several days in the editing bay.
Okay.
So we're starting to get some questions in from the audience here.
Hi, audience.
Yeah. So we have one in here from Jeff Knox, and he wants to know, this was for Danny, so sort of going off what you just said. What do you consider successful in a video, or how do you differentiate, or what do you consider an underperforming video compared to a successful video, and how do you measure that?
Oh, okay. So when I was saying underperformers, so like when we put, we were talking about breaking news video, and I think that, as everybody said, that's something that we all do. But when I was saying underperforming, like quick video clips are something like 60% of our video inventory, but they're only about 20% of our video traffic. So that's what I mean, that we're producing a lot of these and we're using really low production time on them, but they're not actually resulting in a significant amount of traffic for us. The significant chunk of traffic is for our longer produced pieces. And then we define success in a lot of ways, but you can look at traffic. I really look at engagement because I think it's a better predictor of future success. So I really try to make sure that if somebody comes to our video, if they take the effort of clicking on it, and then they go through that long effort of sitting through, let's face it, kind of unbearable pre-roll advertising at times, I want to make sure that they actually, when they reach our video, that it's something that they enjoy. And I know that there's a million things competing there for their attention, and so if they actually watch our video all the way through, then for me, that's a major success. And I think that if I can get 80% of my audience to sit through a multi-minute piece, if they watch it, they enjoy it, they finish that piece, I think that that's a really good predictor that they're going to go through and watch another one of my pieces. But if somebody goes to the effort of clicking on our video, sitting through a long ad, and they leave that video really early, I think that it's not very likely that they're going to come back and watch another one of our videos. And so that would not be success. That's what we watch out for and make sure that we don't try to burn our audience too many times.
Cool. Anyone else want to add to that, or talk about what they how they measure success at your paper?
I've seen a shift too from looking at the number of videos and the number of hits to looking at engagement as well. We just actually went through training to learn how to use Chartbeat, which basically shows you, what the top stories are on your website, how far down people are scrolling, and just looking at engagement time again. And I think that's really been interesting and pretty helpful.
Yeah, I would triple that, I guess, because you can produce the most glorious thing, and if nobody's watching it, what's the point? And so, yeah, we look at how long, people stay with something. And I wanted to jump on this idea of longer form or more polished pieces. We do we do 1 or 2 big projects a year, but a lot of it is just there's some small stuff that you can do that's not a clip that is polished that will drive traffic. It's all about what it is you're gonna focus on. And I think there's too much video being done for video's sake, and not enough kind of selection of just as we would say this is worthy of page 1, well, this is worthy of a video. And I know that a lot of newspapers are hearing this, but you go into a meeting and we want video with that, but nobody will actually ever describe what they think the video will look like and what the story's going to tell and who's going to be the characters. It's just we want video. And so if you're thinking a lot about characters and you're thinking a lot about story, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be 5. It could be 2.5 and still be really engaging and be a signature piece on your website. That's it.
Yeah, kind of jump. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, so I might be going off on a side tangent, I think. But Kathy, I think that that's exactly sort of the danger of. I hear a lot of movement towards quotas and a lot of corporate rules for how many video every person has to produce every day. And I think that that's the real danger, because if you're producing video just because you have a rule saying that you need to produce that much video, the more mediocre content you put up, the quicker you're going to drive away your audience. If you have a lot of mediocre content, then people are going to have a really difficult time distinguishing between what's good and what's not, and you're going to burn out your audience. We put a lot of trust in our photographers and our other visual reporters to make that decision at the assignment and to decide what medium is best for the story that they're trying to tell that day.
I wish I had some. You and Nancy both get stars. You're on my...
Just to kind of jump off that and what Kathy was saying too, I'm really excited. We just have a long form template that was kind of sent out to us that will allow us to kind of, instead of having to do one gigantic, maybe 7 or 8 minute long video, we'll be able to integrate video into our text, and maybe instead of watching a super long video, you could just have a clip where it's relevant to the story. And that'll help us with our long-term storytelling too.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of times we talk about multimedia, and we think that multimedia only happens within the restraints of that little tiny video player. Mm-hmm. And multimedia is about telling a story through all of the media that's available to us. And one of the real advantages we have as newspaper companies is the really rich text and the really rich photography and the really rich graphics that we can produce. I think that puts us in a really competitive niche. And so I think that video needs to play off all of those other elements, because I don't think that our audience is distinguishing between the ways that they get their information as much as we do. Just because we're divided into different departments, I think we have to realize that our audience is receiving that information and that story in a much more holistic way.
All right. We have a couple other questions. It looks like Rebecca says, do you feel like iPhone videos shot by reporters take away from views on the importance of a photojournalist? Or do you notice that it gives photographers more of an opportunity to work on more in-depth stories?
I think it gives us an opportunity to work on more in-depth stories. Instead of having to send someone to just get a clip, the reporter can do it right then and there. And that kind of saves us a little bit of time.
For us, it's about focusing our really limited video editing resources. And I also think that, therefore, I think you just feature your video in different ways. And I think that there's different expectations for the way that video is used when you publish it in different ways. Especially when it's published in the context of a blog, I think that the audience understands that they're going to see video of, if you're on a sports blog and the blog post is all about the interview with such and such athlete, I think that I think that you build an expectation with your audience for what they're going to see. And I don't think that I think that it's more of a design question on how you make that not distract from the rest of your work. But if you feature if you don't, if you have pages that are built to show, like, if you just want to watch a video, this is where you go. That's not really the best place for some of that raw, lower production quality video. But if it lives within the context of a blog post, I think that makes a lot more sense.
I also think that having reporters comfortable doing video, so that maybe they just get a clip from a city council scrum or a press conference. But you know what? There's going to be an opportunity where they're really going to need to do video, and because they're comfortable with the equipment and the tools and what they need to do, then they will, because there's always new situations that are unfolding that like beg for video. And if they're not prepared or don't know how to do it, then that's a missed opportunity for the news organization and for your readers. So I think that there's some conditioning and practice that goes into help in the long term.
Cool. So going back to some of the questions, we've got a couple in here. So another one from Stephanie at the Roanoke Times. So she says, we shoot and produce our own video, but how do you convince management that it's hard to be great at both shooting and producing? We're a one-man show and very limited.
Make them do it. Sorry.
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, no, that's part of the reason when Erin was part of this, we trained. The Gannett went on and trained all of their photo reporters and editors on iPhone, so that they could understand what it is they're asking of their people. If you don't know what you're asking of your people, how can you really ask it? And so, I would stress. I know it's hard for people to kind of speak truth to power or whatever the phrase is, but get out there and see what you're asking people to do and how difficult it is for your brain to switch from one to the next. And if you're not going to be able to give two people, at least give them time so that they can concentrate half the time on this and half the time on that. And then you're probably going to ask them to tweet too, and then Instagram, and all of a sudden, everybody's brains are going to blow out.
Newsmaking is a team sport. And in the same way that we don't expect our reporters to print and deliver the printed product, we have to realize that this is a team process. And I think that the efficiency of having video editors in-house is pretty obvious when you do the numbers. I mean, our photographers have so much demand on them, and every moment that they're sitting in a video bay, they're not out doing the reporting that they're really good at, doing the photography that they're really good at, doing the video collection that they're really, really good at. And so when we know that we can bring in one of our staff photographers and it could take them multiple days to edit a piece, if we have somebody who's really focused and really skilled at video editing, it can take up to a fifth of that time. And so when we make that justification, then it makes sense. But I do think that you have to have enough video production to justify that those video editor positions.
Cool. So sort of jumping off that, we've got another question with Becky. So how do you then initiate the conversation with the newsroom leadership to veer away from video for the sake of video and sort of build up those video editing positions or a culture of high-quality video in the newsroom?
Well, to reference the training that Kathy mentioned, that really started as a top-down initiative, and it was the Gannett Turbo Video training, where they sent a team of reporters and photographers to all the different newsrooms to train them on video and iPhone. I think that just made it super clear to everyone that this is a big commitment that's company-wide, and I think everybody kind of got the message, and I think it really helped too having peers training other peers. So I think that helped get the initial message out. I think now, the focus isn't as laser sharp on video right now, and I think it's now is kind of where we just kind of have to keep the training going, keep people refreshed on, how to use video and how to keep taking video. So it's been a little bit of shift, and now it's kind of like maintenance work. But I think people generally understand when the leadership, and do you agree, Kathy, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think you need to do do your homework on your numbers, I guess, to answer the question specifically, so that if you can actually look at the analytics and say nobody's watching this, clip of something that you knew. I mean, we have a litany of questions we ask people when we're thinking about. I mean, just in the same way that those editors would ask those questions about stories. That same sort of news judgment and that same sort of vetting has to happen when it comes to video, and if there's a lot, are there characters, is there moments, is it visual, is there movement, is there a narrative, is there something that nobody else is going to be able to see in terms of exclusivity. I always ask, will I watch it? If I'm not really going to spend 30 seconds or minute and a half with it, then probably the average viewer isn't either. So, but looking at the numbers and starting to say, okay, well, this video did really well, and these are the reasons why, and this video did really poorly, and this is also why. I mean, there are lots of factors beyond just the numbers. I mean, whether or not it was played on the site, what was the news cycle that it was on, what was it competing against on any given day. But when you start to level some of that out, those numbers can tell you something about the content.
I just want to I just absolutely agree with Kathy on that one, because I think that our business departments and our other parts of the organization are mostly, they're seeing the audience wants this content, but they're not necessarily sure what sort of content we should be producing. That's always been our jobs, to find those stories. But if we don't have that, if we don't have the analytics and the understanding of what we're producing, and if we don't have the vision of where we need to go, then we're inviting other people to try to make those decisions for us. And at that point, we can't complain about the decisions that they make if we weren't ready to make those decisions ourselves. And I think that if we can be successful at what we're doing, nobody's going to argue with success.
Great. So how do each of your newsrooms, how do you make sure that your readers see the long-form projects or the important videos that you guys produce? On a lot of news websites, I see all the videos are on one page, and really great videos can get buried beneath, breaking news and all that sort of thing. So how do you guys make sure your readers see the content that you want them to see?
For us, I think it's communicating. Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, that's okay.
I think for us, it's communicating. We have web editors, and I think communicating with them, I think this might get a little more play, a little more action. So just kind of keeping conversation up with them really helps in getting eyes on certain videos.
So then what do they do? I mean, if you tell them, this is a really great video, we want people to see it, kind of what are the steps that they take? Do they tweet it a certain number of days? Do you put it on your Facebook? Is it on your website a certain number of days? How does that work?
They'll use social media and push it out on social media, and then they'll also use they'll place it in higher places on the website and just kind of watch the traffic.
Same
I was
here.
going to say much of the same.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's much of the same. We also do reefers in the paper, in the print product, but social media and placement on the website is kind of the biggest drivers.
Okay.
And it's something that Danny and I have actually talked about, is this idea of being an advocate for your own work. And so if you've produced it and you're not tweeting it and you're not putting it on your own personal Facebook page, you're just waiting for your newspaper's site to do that, and then also going to people that are intrinsically interested in the topic, and trying to get them to spread it for you. The example I always give is we did a short documentary about Aretha Franklin's song "Respect" hitting #1 on the Billboard charts back in 1967, and it was the 40th anniversary. And at the time, it was 2007, and so Facebook was just, for newspapers really just starting to get going, and early adopters were there, but there wasn't that much of that kind of the social media buzz or using it as a tool for promotion was not yet fully, I think, established. At least it wasn't in our newspaper. And so I read a kind of a simple press release, for lack of a better way to describe it, and I went to every Aretha Franklin, every Motown, every Detroit Soul, Northern Soul fan page I could find, and just emailed the web guy or emailed the leader of the group and said, hey, we have this video, I think you might be interested in it. And I got lots of response back, oh thanks, because they would have never found it. I mean, a lot of these places were in Germany and Japan, and and so if it wasn't for us kind of saying, knock, 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 pay attention to this, they wouldn't have seen it.
The term that we're using in the newsroom now, since we last talked, Kathy, is I've really been trying to push that we need to redefine the finish line. For so long, all of our journalists have seen like publication as the finish line, but that's not. Getting people to see it and enjoy it is the finish line. We built this amazing infrastructure, this amazingly robust infrastructure over delivering our print product. I mean, think about the presses we have, think about the paper we buy, think about the ink we buy, and then we actually put it out on trucks, and we actually drive it to everyone's house, and we drop it at their doorstep. But when it comes to online, we kind of think that just putting it on our homepage, somehow people will magically come to us. And so I think it is about delivering the news to the audience is interested in your work. Because just producing it, that's not really enough. That's not why we're here. We're not here to produce news. We're here to tell stories. And if we're talking to ourselves, I don't really think we're doing our jobs. So the other thing I'm just going to throw in there, the other thing that I really think that you need to do is just play that video in context of the story that you're trying to tell. I mean, video homepages, I think that they have their use, and I think that it's good, and if somebody sees a video on your website, they should be able to find it somehow if they want to be able to find it. But playing, when you have a project, using that video in context, understanding your mission of that video and how it fits into the rest of the project, and then getting it well placed within the context of the project, I think that's a really good strategy, especially because there's so much demand on our homepages to report breaking news, and there's so much a push to refresh that homepage all the time. If you really build a good project page, and you know that people are going to be sharing it, and you know that people are going to continue to watch it, I think that that's a winning strategy, or at least a smart strategy.
And your website's not the only place that you can see it. I mean, we're looking at ways to, you partner with broadcast folks in your area. There's a whole other audience. Maybe you bring it out into the community in a new way. The Free Press, we started a film festival, and we just finished our first year and showed about 12 to 15 films. One was ours, and the rest of them were a bunch of other films, from other filmmakers from all over. And so, and we got to screen our movie at a theater, and 1,000 people came, and we've just submitted it to some film festivals. So there are other ways that people can see your work, and then your brand is extended beyond that. So maybe people think, oh, well, they're known for that. We should check out what they're doing. Or the next time you've got something big, it's like, oh, well, they did that other thing. We should go check that out because that other thing was pretty good. So don't just think the web is your only platform.
And often broadcast partners are really hungry for that content. And so I would say take advantage of that. I mean, they have a secure audience. They're using it. I mean, we don't have any problem at all with somebody airing our video on television because it's really an audience that we don't otherwise reach. So if we have a video piece on television that can help promote a project, we're all gung-ho for that.
Well, maybe going to another question from the audience. We've got one from Rob Gates, who's a online content multimedia producer at the Louisville Courier-Journal. This is going in a little different direction. says, so what are your thoughts on autoplay video, both inside of stories and or on section front pages? Do you guys use that at all, or have any thoughts about that?
Yes, and I made a face when you said it because I always, and Louisville, hello, our Gannett friend. For as a viewer or as a reader of web content from newspaper sites, it drives me nuts. So I always shut them off, and but our paper does that. I think that is right now. Advertisers are going to wise up, and we're just maybe people aren't annoyed anymore because they're used to it. But I don't think they're necessarily engaging with the content. If they're like me, they're hitting pause or mute and going on to the story, unless I really, really, really want to watch the video, and it's really, really good content. But if it's just going to be something that's, a talking head for a story that I can read, twice as fast, then I'll probably do that. So I'm not a fan of them as a reader.
It's a cheat, and it's going to come to an end. I mean, it's a way to really present a lot of advertising and guarantee that traffic, but advertisers are going to realize that they're paying for no one to watch their ads, and it's going to come to an end. And maybe our organizations should ride that and do what they can until they can, but it's going to come to an end.
We use it occasionally on, especially live sports shows. If you jump to a page that is going to be a live show in progress, we'll kick the autoplay on, and it just immediately starts wherever you are in that live show. But generally, we don't use it anywhere else.
Oh, and absolutely, I think that's a great use of it.
Yeah.
Nobody should have to go to your page, then click 3 buttons. Or we also have things where if we have we might use like an animated GIF, and then it's replaced by a video. And if you hit a button, you shouldn't hit the button 4 times. And so we do use autoplay in some ways. And I think that Eric's absolutely right. That's a very appropriate use of autoplay video. But
Right.
I think out of context of what you're doing, I mean, we don't in the rest of your life, you don't walk down the street and all of a sudden a 2-hour feature film starts playing in front of you. You know what I mean? Maybe that happens with Google Glass. But otherwise, I just don't think it's the way that people consume content. But Eric's absolutely right. There is some parts where autoplay makes absolute sense.
Cool. Do we want to talk a little bit more about, or Eric, can you talk a little bit more about the studio shows and sort of where that fits in with the rest of our video content, that kind of philosophy behind doing the studio shows?
Sure. Studio shows, the way we kind of approach studio shows is we don't want to be TV. We want to produce something that's a little bit different, but we also want to be kind of on the cutting edge as much as possible. So in our studio here, we use a switcher and the full setup. We can do up to, I think, 8 cameras, but right now we're on 5. And we also have a roaming kit that we can take out and use in the field, and also up to 8 cameras. But generally we go 4 on the road. The way we look at it is there's no post-production, which is very nice, as any video editor knows, time-wise. So you record the disc, live switch, either broadcast live or record tape and then upload. So it's a high-quality production with, I guess the post-production would be pre-production. You got pre-production time but no post. So there's not a tremendous amount of heavy lifting to get a really nice product out on the site very quickly. We probably do, yeah.
I wanted to. I'm going to be tech geek, but what are you shooting with, and what switcher are you using? Because we're moving and getting a whole new fancy studio, and I've just put together my equipment list. So I want all the dirty details.
You bet.
And I'm sure it'll be helpful to other people.
Sure. Just off the top of my head, we use for the actual broadcast, we're using Wirecast software, and for the switcher, we use Blackmagic. So we have the television studio switcher in the mobile kit, and in-house we're using the ME1, and just a basic Behringer audio board that takes in all of our audio, whether it be lavaliers or hardline mics. Camera-wise, we've got kind of a mixture of JVCs. Right now we're using 600s and 100Us. Right now, I think I have three 600s on me and one 100. So I've got a 4-camera shoot going on right at this time. What else can I tell you? What am I missing here?
No, that was pretty good.
I
Okay.
have a content question, Eric. Like, how do you decide?
Yeah, sure.
How do you decide? Like, what's your bar for what should be a show? I mean, you're committing a lot to regular programming. How do you decide what should be a regular program and what shouldn't be?
Well, a lot of that, it's very content based, and it depends on kind of who we can get on camera as well. We do a weekly show that's called The Roundup, and that's for our editorial board. That's kind of a it's kind of an on the record, public service type show. Not super highly produced. The set's just on black. The sports shows drive a lot of traffic, and it's what people want to watch. So we do a lot of those. We do live shows, and all the Broncos games, all the NFL games in town. I don't know.
You
if
do
I'm
them
answering your
at.
Question.
But
Yes.
do you go mobile for the Broncos and like you're not there, you're out? Okay.
Yeah, well, we're out in the parking lot, and it'll be a 4 or 5 camera shoot, and we'll run it off a generator. Danny, I'm not sure if you remember were you on Radio Row during Super Bowl?
Yeah. You guys were set up there?
Right. We did at least 5 hours live every day from Radio Row.
Wow.
We had 2 shows. We had a press box for 3 hours, and then we had Woody Page for a couple hours in the afternoon. So our content just kind of it varies all over the place. We'll go ahead and try it. We'll give it some time, and if it doesn't really draw a lot of numbers, or our talent is not immediately available every single time, because you have to have extreme consistency with this stuff. We'll kind of back off and reassess, and then maybe try something different. And the ones that work, we go full on with them. We'll stay with them as long as we can, and just keep producing and make it an actual show that people can rely on. And this will be on at 9 a.m. every single morning. This will be on at 5 p.m. once a week on Thursdays, and go from there.
Do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was
after you.
Because both Cincinnati and Indy do live sports shows, and they get sponsorships. Are you serving ads against this stuff?
Excuse me. We are, particularly during Press Box, which is a 2-hour show. There are 3 ad breaks per hour, and the ad breaks are, I think, about 5 minutes apiece, which is difficult for a viewer. That show is also broadcast on radio at the same time. So the radio ads, we're kind of at the mercy of the radio station and what their ad breaks are based on their time. we do pre-roll those, you know, so a pre-roll will pop up and then the autoplay will kick on, and then you might jump in right in the middle of an ad. The ads are sold and shared between us and the actual producer of the show. So it's kind of an odd thing with those really long format shows. But yeah, we drive as much ads to them as possible.
And how many people are, like, is your audience mostly watching you guys live, or is it mostly watching the replay?
The replays, we take the 2-hour show and we break it down into segments. So, you know, if one of our columnists is talking about something he wrote about that day, we'll clip that and we'll post that within his story or her story and go from there. We do not replay the entire 2 hours anymore. We used to upload the entire 2-hour show afterwards, and nobody was watching the after fact. So the little segments are getting a lot of hits versus the actual live show itself.
What is the audience?
Like the demographic, is that what you mean? Or?
No. Like what is the traffic on it? I mean, if you can tell us? Yeah.
You know, it depends on the time of year and what's going on. Obviously, during Super Bowl, and the Broncos are going to the Super Bowl, our traffic was way up there. I don't remember. I want to say our daily hits on the show itself were in the 3,000s. Watching live, you know, on and off. And the numbers from breaking that down, I can't remember.
Okay.
And now it's kind of a slow time, you know. The Rockies are playing, the Avalanche just kind of went away. So it's a little bit of slow time for sports right now. So that show isn't generating a tremendous amount at this moment, but it's still doing very well. I don't have the exact numbers with me though.
Sure.
Do we want to move on? We've got a couple other questions coming in from some folks. So we'll go with one from Brent Lewis, who's a photographer at the Rockford Register-Star in Rockford, Illinois. So what do you all think the best way to display videos is on an online article, you know, or on a video page? Just the best way to display a video online. And do you think, you know, if you have a longer piece, do you think one long video works, or if several short clips that are spread out through the article or through the project works better?
Depends on the video and depends on the story, I would say. You know, if we've got a bunch of clips and, you know, if we're going to display something and it's, you know, it's all on one kind of continuous page, and we want the user to experience the clip at the moment in which they've gotten the information related to the clip, we'll do that. If it's the video is the, you know, the movie version of the book, then we'll make that the big to-do. You know, it really just depends on the story. There's lots of different ways you can make it work.
And on the content too. I mean, I think that like in our editing process, we're sort of trying to identify like, oh, this doesn't fit in the story of the main piece, but we really think that this could make a really like a nice clip. Like we think we can actually churn a side story. So it's about plotting out, you know, where you want your main story to go, and then being ready to identify some of those other things that might have hit the cutting room floor otherwise, but could play well in an online place. But I do agree that it's really about play. It's really about the right play for each video. I do think it should be embedded. I do think that it's in context, but visual hierarchy should depend on the importance of that story. And so whether it's stripped across the top or whether it's a small thing that people click on, it should depend on the importance and the relevance of the video content.
Great. Okay, there's one more question here for Eric, and then we'll have one more question after that, and then I think maybe we'll try and wrap up. But there was one for Eric from Rob Gates. So all that equipment obviously is quite an investment. Is that worth it as far as money and time, or how would you say if someone was considering doing a studio show, what are their considerations that they should think about before they just jump into buying all that stuff, putting all the time into it?
Yeah, it is a huge investment, but it doesn't have to be. You can get away with, any HDMI camera, and even if you want to do a 2-camera shoot in the studio, 2 small 100s, you could get away with maybe $2,000 in cameras, some tripods. I think Wirecast is about $500, and the Blackmagic television switcher is under $1,000. So you could get a full live setup for $3,000 to $4,000 if you probably even a little cheaper if you want to go used. And it's definitely worth it. I mean, to be able to kind of get away from the YouTube type feel of your video, broadcasting live, being able to switch cameras, being able to do camera swings, it's something I would recommend to just jump into and try to make it happen with what you have, and go that route. I hope that answers that question.
I believe so. And then one more from another question from Danya Maxwell. Hey, Danya. It's been a while since grad school, but she's tuning in from the Naples Daily News. Someone said something about multimedia pieces being intended to entertain people. And so she's hoping if we can talk about the distinction between entertainment and documentary multimedia pieces. Maybe everyone can field that a little bit, and where you draw the line or how you walk that line when you're thinking about what you want to shoot versus maybe what hits clicks. So just entertainment pieces, documentary pieces, is there a difference? Is there a difference in the way you approach that?
At our paper, we have a columnist who's kind of like the class clown. And we've done some videos together. The first one was we went on the streets and just asked people a news quiz, like name the false legislature that was being proposed by the North Carolina legislature. And it was really fun, and it was really great. And we've done a lot of videos together, which, people, it kind of advances him in the community, and people recognize him as the answer man. And there is a little bit of news value, and I think it's a little entertaining. We have done a few that have veered a little too into goofball territory, and I think we've learned from that and have learned to kind of pull back from that and make sure that at the core of it they're getting some information, they're getting some news. So I don't know if that kind of answers that question, but that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to tear down our entire journalistic mission just because we're trying out video. I mean, our role within our community is to inform and to build that community, and I mean, maybe not educate, but we are, we don't have to change our mission just because we're in video. There's a lot of great sources for entertainment. In some ways, we're all competing for the same thing, and that's people's attention span. And I'm flattered every time that somebody thinks that our videos are worth their attention. And so in some ways, maybe it is entertainment, but in straight up humor videos and entertainment videos, sure, we need to give a full, diverse diet and a well-rounded news coverage, and we've always had feature sections, we've always had entertainment coverage, but I don't think that we need to go straight into humor pieces, more so than we would have with the rest of our journalistic mission. And I think that, like what Erin's saying, like if it's humor used by a columnist or something to advance civic understanding and stuff like that, I'm totally gung-ho for it. But I don't know that we need to duplicate all of the cats and bunnies that are already on the internet. That's not really our niche.
Anyone else have any follow-up thoughts or anything else before we conclude? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. And then the last question in here was, will a recorded copy of this Hangout be available after it's finished? Absolutely, it will. It will be at APPM or appphotomanager.com/hangouts. We'll be on there to watch it anytime. So thanks everyone for coming. It's been awesome, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks everybody. It's been really flattering. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. It's good to see all you guys.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.